Hey everyone, I'm Davis.
And I'm Amy.
And in today's podcast, we are talking about the theme of revenge, how it relates to the revolutionary novel Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, by going through several quotes and how they relate to this idea, what the roots of revenge actually are, why it happens in the brain, and what revenge looks like today, as well as in history.
That's right. We will explore research done by Stanford, a study done by Swiss researchers, laws made by a tyrannical ruler, and a piece of Greek mythology.
So in Frankenstein, one of the major themes is revenge and getting people back. And this can be seen in both Victor, the main character in the novel, and more noticeably in his monster.
Alive! It's alive!
So the first quote we'll be talking about that showcases the monster's revenge is this. I know not, despair had not yet taken possession of me. My feelings were those of rage and revenge. I could with pleasure have destroyed the cottage and its inhabitants, and have glutted myself with their streaks and misery.
So after trying to become acquainted with the DeLacy family, people who Frankenstein's monster has come to love and respect, he gets them wood for fires and begins helping out around the college. He tries to go win their approval.
However, he is met with rejection from the family, which ultimately turns him over to revenge and hatred, and this is pretty much the starting point where he goes on his killing spree.
And another quote indicating his complete turn to revenge. No, from that moment I declared everlasting war against the species, and more than all, against him who formed me, and sent me forth to this insupportable misery.
So this quote reflects the monster's determination to enact revenge on the human species, and most importantly, his creator, Frankenstein, who abandoned him and rejected him.
These following lines by the monster reveal his soon-to-be intentions of killing Frankenstein's younger brother William. My protectors had departed, and had broken the only link that held me to the world. For the first time the feelings of revenge and hatred filled my bosom, and I did not strive to control them, but allowing myself to be borne away by the stream, I bent my mind towards injury and death.
So to explain this quote, revenge takes over the monster, completely shrouding his feelings of love and awe at the world. He is overpowered. And he says this quote right before taking the life of his first victim, William. I will revenge my injuries. If I cannot inspire love, I will cause fear, and chiefly towards you, my arch enemy. I will work at your destruction, nor finish until I desolate your heart, so that you curse the hour of your birth.
And now moving on to Victor and his slow descent into cold-blooded revenge. Why am I here to relate the destruction of the best hope and the purest creature on earth? The monster strangles Elizabeth to death in the woods of her and Victor's wedding night. The love of Victor's life and his hope to live on is now dead. The monster has just slain the last piece of Victor's happiness. He has nothing to keep him going anymore.
Here's another quote to indicate Victor's intent to take revenge. I was possessed by a maddening rage when I thought of him, and desired and ardently prayed that I might have him within my grasp, to wreak a great and signal revenge on his cursed head. Victor begins to reflect upon his past misfortunes, all the deaths that has taken those around him. Elizabeth's death was the final straw that pushed him over the board. The hatred he has for the monster starts to surface. He wants to enact revenge and destroy the monster, which has caused him so much pain.
And this following line from Victor gives new meaning to his life. I had formed in my own heart a resolution to pursue my destroyer to the death, and this purpose quieted my agony and for an interval reconciled me to life. This newfound purpose for Victor has given him a determination to live. It has nulled his suffering and provided him with something else to focus on and work towards. He will spend the rest of his life chasing after the monster, trying to achieve his goal, all the way to his meeting of chance with Robert Walton.
So revenge, what exactly is the root of all this madness?
Recently, we found a Stanford article that tackled this idea of revenge, and found some very interesting points. So the Oxford Dictionary defines revenge as both an act or desire to right a wrong by harming the transgressor.
So basically, that means paying somebody back?
Yes, exactly. And in practically every case, it never goes as the person plans. It always ends up with more hurt and pain instead of feelings of bliss and pleasure.
In fact, studies have proven that the more revenge you have in your life, the more likely you are to be less satisfied with life and be extremely pessimistic. Also, strong desires for revenge have been linked to PTSD and psychiatric morbidity. And that reminds me of a study I read about a few days ago that proved the lasting harmful effects of revenge. Essentially, a group of Swiss researchers wanted to know what happens in the brain when someone wreaked revenge. They scanned the brains of people who had just been wronged during the game in the lab, and these people had trusted their partners to split a pot of money with them, only to find that the partners had chosen to keep the loot for themselves. So the researchers then gave the wronged participant a chance to punish the other person, and for a full minute as the victims contemplated revenge, the activity in their brain was recorded. Immediately, the researchers noticed a rush of neuroactivity in the caudate nucleus. This is the part of the brain known to process rewards.
Wait, so this study actually confirmed the common saying that revenge is sweet, though. So what about the harmful effects that we were just talking about? Did they go further? Does revenge keep rewarding? And if so, what are the long-term effects of it?
Well, even though the first few moments feel rewarding in the brain, the scientists found that instead of extinguishing hostility, revenge prolongs the unpleasantness of the original offense. Instead of delivering justice, revenge actually creates a cycle of retaliation.
Okay, I get it. So instead of walling in feelings of revenge and trying to get the person back, the best way to deal with revenge is to put it towards my goals. So the next time I feel an intense need for revenge, I'll take that intensity and put it towards succeeding, which will then get the reward center of my brain pumping by thinking about how great it will feel when I meet my goals. Oh, and there's a Frank Sinatra quote that goes along with this. The best revenge is massive success.
We interrupt this podcast with a brief message from our sponsors at LicecrabRevenge.com.
If you have ever had an ex cheat on you and break your heart,
If you have ever punched above your weight and found yourself being taken for granted,
if you have ever been hurt physically or emotionally by someone who didn't deserve your love or friendship in the first place,
if you've ever found yourself on the receiving end of a cruel joke,
this is the place for you.
come on over and buy one handy-dandy bottle of our finest lice.
Yes, you heard it. Public lice for all.
Thank you for listening to this brief message.
You know, revenge can be seen all over history, especially in Hammurabi's Code from the Babylonian times.
Oh yeah, Hammurabi's Code provides some of the earliest examples of the doctrine of lex talionis, or the laws of retribution, sometimes better known as an eye for an eye.
And the theme of revenge can also be found in myths around the world, but is especially prevalent in Greek mythology. The interesting story of Tantalus serves to tell readers not to anger the gods.
Yes, I remember. The son of Zeus and a nymph, Tantalus was good friends with the gods. In his hubris, Tantalus took nectar and ambrosia from Mount Olympus in the hopes of discovering the secrets of immortality and divinity. Tantalus then served his son Pelops for dinner.
Right, and after finding out, the gods cursed him to stand in a shallow pool under a fruit tree for all eternity. Whenever Tantalus tries to reach for fruit, the branches grow just out of his reach and the water in the pool recedes. He is cursed to eternal hunger while being taunted by food right in front of him.
So unfortunately, we've come to the end of this podcast.
Over the course of the podcast, we've explored the topic of revenge in Victor Frankenstein and his monster, the psychology of it, and places it has appeared in history and Greek mythology.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, and we'll see you next time.